Now is our panel. Idris Khalloun, staff writer for The Atlantic. Arshi Siddiqui, former senior aide to Speaker Pelosi and founder and CEO of Bellwether Government Affairs. And Michael Dupke, former Trump White House communications director. Thank you all so much for joining us. Idris, I want to start with you. How significant is November 1st going forward? That's if this shutdown lasts that long, could we see a shift in public opinion, because that's when open enrollment starts?
Yeah, it's when a lot of things happen. So SNAP benefits will become affected. I think right now a lot of Americans are not really reacting to the shutdown because it hasn't started to affect their day-to-day life. But SNAP benefits would be affected, and these ACA enrollments would be affected. So what's at stake now between Democrats and Republicans are these subsidies that are expiring. And to make that clear, that means that right now, for the 20 million or so people who are on these Affordable Care Act health insurance plans, they're paying about $900 a year in premiums. That would go up to about $1,900 if these expire.
So, Arshi, does that ramp up pressure on Democrats?
No, I think if anything, this is the first time after the Republican reconciliation bill where this issue has been in play and Democrats have had a seat at the table. Now, unfortunately, that seat at the table, nobody has invited them to the room yet. So far, it's been, let's have one meeting, but no negotiation. And I think this is the opportunity to really drive that urgency home, because these letters are going to come out and millions of Americans are going to have to make choices on open enrollment in terms of their budgets going into next year.
So, Michael, we show those numbers that most people do want these tax credits extended. Is it a mistake for Republicans not to negotiate on them now?
If this whole shutdown becomes about these credits and the Affordable Care Act, yes, but this shutdown isn't really only about that. That's what the Democrats want to make it about. But the Republicans have offered to, if Democrats move forward, open the government again. They can sit down at the table, invite them into the room, it sounds like, and have these conversations about extending these credits, because the president has mentioned that these need to be extended. In his mind, Republicans recognize that, but we're not going to get there until we open the government back up again.
Well, look, you said that Democrats want to shift the conversation to these credits, but earlier in the show, we were talking about, look, just one Republican, but Marjorie Taylor Greene is now coming back and saying that, this could be a problem moving forward. Now, I never thought I'd see the day when Marjorie Taylor Greene is seen as like the moderate, the voice of reason here.
Voice of reason, yes.
But what do you make of that? How significant is it? Is she a bellwether for the MAGA movement? And could others in the MAGA movement potentially be very worried if these subsidies are not extended?
No, I think she's an outlier in terms of speaking up now, because we do have time. We can get the government open. We can have these conversations, and we can make the November 1st deadline. But she is absolutely correct that if this keeps dragging on and we go to this place, the midterms, this will become an issue in the midterms. Okay. So she's recognizing that.
Okay, Idris, do you think she's an outlier here in this conversation?
She might be a leading indicator, but I think that the modern Republican Party is a lot more comfortable with the big welfare state than previously. If you remember, for a long time, for 10 years, the Republican Party was about dismantling Obamacare, and now it is so baked into healthcare decisions that Americans make that people are willing to go for it.
Now, Arshi, Leader Jeffries was asked about a one-year extension of these Obamacare, of these tax credits. That's been previously proposed by Republicans, but he called it a non-starter. Are Democrats risking being too rigid here?
I mean, first of all, there needs to be any negotiation in the press. So I think if he gets to the table and has that discussion, but I would actually push back a little bit on Idris's point on where Republicans are on this. They had an opportunity in the reconciliation bill. They could have extended these. CBO actually did call that 5 million individuals would lose their health care. None of this is a surprise. So there was a deliberate decision not to act. So I would just say on the Jeffries point is that it is all about getting to the table, and that's where you can have that back and forth to find common ground and get an off-ramp.
But as long as the government's closed, that room is going to be locked and the table will be empty.
Until there is actually an invitation to negotiate.
Okay. Well, I want to switch topics here to something that we were, discussing earlier in the show, this deployment of troops across the country. Obviously, the administration is running into some legal battles here, Michael. But what do you make of I don't know if you saw it, but there was this montage earlier in the show where we were playing sound bites of President Trump and White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller repeatedly using the word insurrection to describe this. Do you think that the administration is trying to work its way up to invoking the Insurrection Act here, and would they be justified in doing so?
I think that the administration is keeping all of their options open, and by utilizing words such as insurrection and talking about the Insurrection Act here, he is keeping the pressure up on cities like Chicago and governors like the governor of Illinois to keep all of their options open on when and where to deploy the National Guard for various reasons. And we've had different reasons in L.A., Washington, D.C., Memphis, and Chicago and Portland.
Keeping options open, but today the president said that Democrats are like insurrectionists. Are we diluting the meaning of the word here?
There are, as I am not a lawyer, but I am sure for all those lawyers that are watching out there, there are very specific terms around insurrection. I don't think he's diluting the word, but if you look at the Insurrection Act, one of the concerns everyone has is how vague the act is. So I don't think we're there. I don't think we're going to get there. He did not invoke it in his first term. But I do think he's keeping his options open.
Well,